Welcome to the Ladies' Room, where politics meets women's issues, and we're not here to sugarcoat anything. We're diving headfirst into the stories that matter to women, from Washington power plays to battles over our basic rights. It's bold, it's unapologetic, and yeah, it's going to get messy. Because let's face it, the fight for equality always is. Grab a drink, pull up a chair, and let's get into it. This is the Ladies' Room.
All right, hello, everybody, huddle in, get in, let's huddle in. Ooh. Welcome to the Ladies' Room, and I'm Allison, the Mighty Librarian, and we have Vagabondia with a broken camera, so she's going to be off camera. Welcome to the Ladies' Room. Actually, we have some news. We're thinking about changing the name of the podcast because it's evolved into something a little different, which is totally cool. We had a few ideas that we'll go with that we're mulling over, so expect some news about that. So, how's your week been going?
It is reporting season over here, so it's been busy going through reports, and then you know how it always goes. You think you're finished, and then someone throws you a wrench, and you have to redo the whole darn thing. So, good times.
Yeah, it was annual review season in our library for activity reports to show you did stuff. Oh, and you have to enter everything. The software is really annoying. It's really not intuitive at all. I don't think it's actually meant for academia. I think they made it fit, the company fitted it for academia, but it's really not. Clumsy. It's it's really annoying, and you have to upload. You have to do it anyway for your if you're trying to get promoted in rank. So it's just all this stuff you got to upload and write a short description over, and it's very painstaking and time consuming, and
Yeah, ours is super annoying because most of us are nonprofits, and so we're reporting to the state how we spent every single penny they gave us, and we have to spend every penny they gave us, and then also what we spent on our collections and our programming and our staffing and everything else. And then we also have to do all the programming numbers and how many website visits and how many patrons came through the door and how many reference questions we answered. And we have to guess on some of that because, you know, who has the time to mark all those down? It's like, I could be actually helping patrons instead of sitting here telling you at the end of the year all the things I did last year. But it's exhausting.
it is exhausting. And a lot of those counters for patrons hard to judge because it measures if somebody walked in, but it could be the same person. Like somebody steps out to take a phone call, comes back in. So it's hard to even judge how many people are actually coming into the library because it can be the same people. Doesn't and there's software
visitors.
that will actually do that. We can't afford it, but
Exactly.
it recognizes faces pointing, and then it gets weird with privacy. So we weren't even going to touch that can of worms. So,
No, that's amazing. We have to track visitor counts for the state report, but at one point we also used it in our formula to determine how much each library got, and we realized very quickly that A, it's really hard to keep count. B, I can't verify your information. You could tell me 1,000 people came through. I can't prove you wrong. And C, we
yeah.
had one library that had a counter, and their numbers were always like 3 times as high as everyone else's, but they only had one entrance. So every time someone came in or went out, even the staff, even the mailman, and you're like, that's not the same
Yeah.
thing. So it's just
It's not unique visitors, and that's really hard. I mean, it's really hard to tell. So and a lot of these numbers that you have to give don't match. You know what they mean, but people above you who don't work in the freaking library, they think it means something, but it's 1,000 people came in an hour. It could have been the same. It could be an event and people are coming in and out. That doesn't actually mean 1,000 unique people are coming, so it's wild. But yeah, so let's get started. So the topic we're talking about is how SEC football is going to be destroyed by legislation and stuff that, cutting education and getting rid of the Department of Education. Now you might say, but Allison, they're not related at all. And you'd be right. They aren't related. But they're linked. They are linked. We're going to get into that a little bit and show you how, if you love SEC football, if UGA, and I'm going to use UGA because it was easiest for me to find their numbers. But, if you don't care about what's going on, and if you're in the South, I know there's a good high probability you care about college football. Let me tell you, if Trump actually guts the Department of Education and SB 74 in Georgia, which we can talk about a little later, if that really starts, they really start locking up librarians for stupid shit, I promise you, SEC football will start to suck for you. And we will get to it. So, shoot. Let me get things going. Don't worry, guys. I'm not gonna do a PowerPoint presentation or anything like that. But not even close. Just some clips of stuff. I should have prefaced with, this isn't like a webinar seminar or anything like that, because that would put me to sleep. So this is a statement by UGA saying last month that the UGA, University of Georgia, is Georgia's biggest school within the system. Even colleges outside the system. UGA it has the Georgia Bulldogs, which is a very popular football team, even if you don't live in the South. It's an R1 institution, which means a lot of crazy big deal research gets done there. And basically, if something important's getting researched in Georgia, it's usually UGA doing it. So they're a big deal. And if there's an initiative going, chances are it started at UGA. Just everything's stored there. So anyway, a lot of money from the federal government. So let's say you cut all of money that goes to academia. And some people are like, yeah, them damn liberals. Okay, great. Well, them damn liberals allow a football team to exist, and here's why. So we get, I don't work there. 225 million their Office of Research gets from the federal government. So that's a lot of money that they're going to have to make up, that the federal government covers for them, because chances are UGA is doing research on behalf for the government on something, whatever it might be. So let's look at this. Oh, that's not it. Bear with me. Okay. So
did you do the Tony to do?
I did do that. He's rubbing off.
He is.
So this is apparently a platform that a lot of college coaches will use, where you can get in touch with them if you're a star player, that kind of thing. This lists all their coaches and stuff and their stats. What I wanted to point out was the tuition. Okay, out-of-state tuition, $30K. 11,000 if you're in-state. average debt on graduation, $14,000, which is fairly low comparatively speaking to how much debt some other people are come out on their undergraduate. Then you also have to look at the competitiveness. And I'm not going to go through all of this, but basically, it's a very competitive school. So a lot of times when people are recruited to UGA, it's a big, if you're being recruited for UGA football, it's a big deal. And you want to go there because A, it's a great team, B, it's a great school. Because of all the opportunity, just not even if you're getting recruited for football, just having the UGA degree in something will, because chances are, even though you're a great football player, chances are you're not going to the NFL. I mean, just statistically, you're not going because there's only so many teams, statistics, not to be an asshole, but, so you want a degree that's going to get you somewhere. Well, most of these players are also in it for the degree, not just to play ball. Because statistically speaking, they're not going to the NFL, a whole bunch of things can happen. So, oh, damn, I think I might have, I hate when you lose like really good data. I guess I must have clicked out of it. Well, basically it was showing how much financial aid goes to federal financial aid that goes to UGA. And it's something like $600 million worth of government research expenditures, all sorts of things, totaling up to like 660,000. Let me rephrase. $660 million of expenditures are covered by financial aid of some sort. So this is, and I'm not going to go through it all, where the money goes in college football. In 2023, about almost 210 million, ranked fifth only behind Michigan, Texas A&M, and Ohio State. So they generate the UGA generates about $210 million off of football. And that's not necessarily profit. That's just what they're bringing in from tickets and all of that stuff. So those were just some, I'm a librarian. I like to bring receipts when I'm making statements. And those are some, I'm making slightly bold statements. So let's stop sharing that. So college football, how does this affect things? Well, if we're not getting that $660 million of federal financial aid, that means students have to get that if they still want to go to UGA, they have to rely on the HOPE grant, which is essentially a scholarship for Georgians. If you graduate with a certain GPA, you get a good chunk of your college tuition paid for. You graduate at Georgia high school. So you have to rely on that. You have to rely on private loans because there won't be any federal loans that you are eligible, or scholarships that the college gives you. But if they're not getting federal funding, they're likely have very limited scholarships at this point. So how many students are on federal financial aid at UGA? I didn't find the exact amount, but if $660 million is pumped in from, that's a lot of students. That if, let's say half of that means students can't go to college, that is ticket sales. That's revenue that's not going to be generated. That's revenue that's not going to be generated in the town because college kids order takeout, go to bars, buy clothes. They build up, even though locals hate the colleges, they love them because they make them money. So anyway, so that's my little rant. Vagabondia, what do you think?
Well, we were talking about this before the show, but I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee for about a decade, and most of those college towns, literally Knoxville, when school was in session, when UTK was in session, the population doubled. And there were restaurants and bars and stuff that
Mhm.
suffered through the off season because of all the money they would make when the kids were back in town. And it also affected housing because a lot of them lived off campus, and the kids had cars and they had to buy gas and all these other things. It's huge. It's a huge thing for the local economy. Brought in so much business, so many different industries popped up just to support the students and the professors, that once that funding's not there,
Good
those
point.
industries
Yeah.
are going to leave. There's no reason for them to hang out. And a lot of companies came and based themselves near a college because of the talent they can attract from the college. But when the education is undermined,
Absolutely.
why would they keep their headquarters there? They're not going to. They're going to go somewhere else. So it's a net loss. Even if you have no intention of going to college, or you don't have a student who'll be going to college, it's still going to impact you.
Yeah. So that's a really good point that the brain drain of universities is also really connected to college football too, because if a college town thrives on the professors too, who make more money than typically than college kids, and they like to go out to eat, go to bars, buy things, buy clothes, so they generate their own economies outside of the university. So I said in my Substack, the Georgia brain drain is beginning. SB 74 passed the Senate. This is the state house, and get that pulled up. So essentially, it is to prevent minors from seeing exhibiting harmful materials to minors. And what a lot of people don't understand is that there's a law already on the books. It was SB 226, and then I forgot what it passed the House last year, so I don't remember what the name or the number of it is. But it basically will imprison school librarians if they do not make any good faith effort to make sure the books that they are putting on the shelves and ordering are appropriate. Specifically, left out of that bill was, and it said this doesn't apply to universities, colleges, and public libraries. Why wouldn't it apply? Well, colleges and universities usually deal with adults. It's really hard to monitor. Like, when most of them people are adults, it's really hard, and you're supposed to be higher ed, not 13th grade. It's really hard to censor things. And I mean, our medium-sized university probably houses 200,000 volumes of stuff. We're a small to medium-sized library. UGA probably has millions of volumes of stuff. A volume is like I guess you could say a book, but it's not necessarily a book, so we just say volumes. Um, they probably have millions of volumes, so it would be impossible. It's impossible for UGA to really monitor anything, or like using a database. It's impossible to, you know, if you assign an article for your students to read, and you teach like biology or human anatomy or psychology, and it's like, what was that? Abnormal psychology deals with sexual deviance. So chances are you're like, if, and so you'll also say, but Allison, no minors go to college. Minors go to college all the time. Georgia has a dual enrollment program. I'm sure a lot of states have some form of a dual enrollment program where you can take college credits while you're still in high school. It's like AP type program. It also helps them to fund, you can get college credits that will actually transfer. Sometimes AP credits don't transfer to the college, even though they tell you it will. These credits that you take when you're in a dual enrollment program, it will transfer. So you get to knock out college classes while you're in high school, and then you don't have to pay full price for those credits later. So it means you can graduate earlier for less money. So what will likely happen if this bill actually goes through, one possibility is we don't let in dual enrollment students and say, well, that's not so bad. And it's like, but it really, like, some of these people like rely on this program, plus the Hope Scholarship, and every credit counts because credit hours are expensive. UGA is probably a solid 2,000, 3,000 a credit, probably closer to 3,000 a credit. So this went to basically voted along party lines. Max Burns, I wrote a Substack article about him. He's kind of a dick. You should read about him because it's a bad faith law. The guy who's really bent on locking up librarians. I don't know what librarian pissed in his Cheerios when he was at whatever point, but he is bent on locking up librarians. And there's this one interview he gives where he says, like, why are college librarians exempt? It's like, dude, you were a president of the university. He was a college professor at one point. He knows exactly why librarians would be exempt. Public and university librarians would be exempt from the other bullshit law that he didn't get through last year. So it's a challenge. It's wild. It's really challenging not to like scream in a pillow with some of this stuff. But
Allison, I just had a thought too. There's also students who are very advanced who end up going to college when they're still technically minors.
That's a good point. We had my first major in college was music ed. Thankfully, I learned really quickly that wasn't the career path for me. But there was a 16-year-old who was he was like, he already had like CDs put out. God, that dates us, doesn't it? He already had like 2 or 3 CDs. He was a virtuoso. Like, he's been famous since he was like 3 or something. I don't know if that for a fact, but anyway, so he was 16 and in going to college with, so what are you going to do? And then also, the one thing people don't realize about colleges too, if you're a public university, you're technically a public library. So that means that college students always have first dibs on like computers, and if you're a paying student to attend it, you're always first on the list. But the public can always use a college library if it's a public library, because if public tax dollars are paying, contributing money to it, you're entitled to use those materials too. A lot of college libraries will not let you check out stuff, but you can still use stuff. They'll usually let you log on a computer to, search their databases and stuff like that. So, there's lots of different things that have, there's different, there's different possibilities of how a minor would be at the university library. I went to college when I was 17. I mean, I turned 18 right after I got to college, but sometimes your birthday falls weird. It's so stupid. Oh, I'm sorry,
Well, you make a
Amethyst.
really good point about the college libraries being open to the public. I mean, I grew up in Northeast Texas, and most towns in the area did not have public libraries. There was one in the county seat, but that's also where there were several University of Texas. There was a University of Texas satellite school there, and when the public library didn't have it, you would go over to UT to get it. And it didn't. I mean, they had a sizable collection, and they had a teaching school, so they had a lot of kids materials as a result. And so if we'd been denied access to that, that would have created even fewer access points for those of us who didn't have a lot of public libraries in the area.
Yeah, that's a good point too. Sometimes, if high school students do final projects, for graduation, They'll use the college. Colleges usually have an archive too. So a lot of times, if they're doing a final project, they're going into, there's so many reasons why a minor, and keep in mind, like when we talk about minors, typically we're talking about the youngest really being typically around 16 is going to enter that library. A lot of these same people want to lower the age of consent to like 16. A lot of these same people call like want to bring back child labor. Yet at 17 years old, if they see like a statue of David, the wrong version of David, and a teacher in Florida was fired for that. Let's keep it real. A teacher in Florida was fired for showing her middle school class a sculpture of David in a classical. The school focuses on classical education. How you get fired for that is beyond me. But she showed the wrong version of David, which the most famous version is he's nude. That's another thing. Art classes, they have nude models to learn how to draw the form, and it's not sexual. It just is what it is. And what's worse about this is that this isn't written in good faith. It's written very vaguely, so it can be interpreted in many different ways. So let's say you have high schooler taking intro to art, and they have a nude model come in to learn how to draw human lines and curves. It's very common. What's gonna, either you don't let the student take the class, or you don't allow the class as a whole, you don't have a nude model.
Well, and
which I don't know a whole lot about art, but it sounds like there's a reason. Go ahead.
Right. But do they not remember being a teen? I mean, teens are aware of sexually explicit material. They know how to find it. They don't need us at the library showing them where it is. They're accessing it. I mean, my 9-year-old brother stole all of my dad's vintage Playboys at one point, so him and his buddies could look at them. Come on, be
That's
real.
good.
You remember being a teen. You found a way to access it. And honestly, my biggest takeaway, and we've talked about this before, is reading a story about someone who was in a bad domestic violence kind of relationship, and
Yeah.
so you start to recognize the signs, and then you read about what they did to overcome it and all that. That's powerful, so that when they see their friends going through it, or where they themselves start to go through it, they have a frame of reference. You cannot pretend like this doesn't happen. It does.
Bingo.
And we're just providing them tools to help them with that situation. They're not in a bubble until the day they turn 18. I'm sorry, that's not how the world works.
And that's the whole point. It's not about the kids. It's not about what they may or may not see. Because a lot of these people let their kids play Grand Theft Auto or Halo. I think it's Halo. There's another really violent game, gun, and it's graphic. It looks real, and you shoot somebody in the head and brains come out. It's graphic. I forgot.
Derek plays one of those where he shoots Nazis all the time, and he can watch it in slow motion, the bullet entering them and stuff exploding. Call of Duty.
Yeah, Call of Duty. That's what it is.
Warfare 2.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So
they probably let them watch R-rated movies, or they probably watch HBO and Game of Thrones and all these different shows. They have plenty of explicit sexuality and nudity in them. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, this all bullshit laws leads to brain drain. I know I'm operating as if I might leave Georgia. So I'm going to prepare myself to leave Georgia, and I'm going to stop at the time where I have to pull a trigger. Now, do I want to leave Georgia? No. I love my job. I don't want to leave. I love what I do. And this pisses me off that some asshole is ruining my life, like potentially. He's already ruined probably hundreds of thousands of people's lives. I don't need the stress, and like here I have to live kind of two lives, like prepare to leave, prepare to stay. But I know if I don't prepare, what's that stupid failure to plan is a plan to fail, like, you know, and also if you're taking away money from education, it might be that, I might get fired, you know, I get laid off, that just might be a reality of it. So,
Well, and this is happening to librarians, to teachers. I mean, the pay's already shit. It's already hard as hell to do our jobs because of all the restrictions they put on us and the additional mandates they put on us. And now you're putting laws that make us constantly under surveillance so that it's hard to do your job without risking getting fired or something. And now they're trying, I mean, the public service loan forgiveness has been tied up in court now for forever, and God knows what's going to happen there. It's like, why would anyone go into these fields
yeah.
to be
And
attacked by you and not paid anything?
but that's also kind of the point too. It's to make you so miserable you leave, self-censor yourself. Like that's really the point, because they know a lot of this is illegal and they can't do it. So they just want to make you as miserable as possible. So you
Are you
quit.
familiar with the lawsuit that Random blah, 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 Penguin Random House and a couple of other publishers and a public library in Idaho just filed in January or the beginning of February, I don't remember which, against Idaho because Idaho passed a law that adult materials could not be within reach of children, basically. And the the Association for Rural and Small Libraries Librarian of the Year, Sherry Shilen, who is amazing, it's her library. Her library is so small that it's like I think it's an 800 square foot building. It might be smaller than that. And they have
I
two
did read
TVs
about
outside.
this.
Right.
Yeah.
So they joined the lawsuit because they literally had to close their public library off from children because they couldn't comply with the law. And they're like, you don't realize you are depriving this entire community and lots of communities of access to the public library because you didn't think about the
That's the
fact
point.
that it's not big enough here for me to put the adult books too far away from the kids. How about, oh, I don't know, parents monitor their children while they're in the library? How about we do that?
Bingo. Like, and I refuse to. I don't really, tech services is not really my thing, but I know it's possible, because if you don't want your children to check out certain topics, can't you just like ban the kid from checking out certain topics? Like our libraries are doing levels of restriction proactively, so like there's full access, um, like mid-level access, which means they can check out only certain levels of books, and then completely restricted means they need a parent with them to check anything out, which I think is really horrible, because sometimes a kid, like, something's happening to them and they don't want to ask, or they're being dismissed. Like they find out information through libraries a lot of the times. And this was never a problem until like 2021. And then all of a sudden they figured out, hey, let's discredit librarians and teachers and call them pedophiles, and see, I bet that'll like get that. So, because it's all about controlling information. This has nothing to do with protecting kids. Nothing. It has, because if you're looking to protect kids, you'd have completely different legislation that would protect kids. And I fully believe, my conspiracy theory is that this is enabling creepos, because you're deflecting blame onto somebody else for horrible things. Instead of, if you were going to try to protect kids, you would tell them the real statistics of who's going to hurt a child. It's not a librarian or a teacher. It's likely somebody they know. So then, when a child comes to their parent now and says, my relative, coach, pastor is doing horrible things to me, parents are less likely to believe their kid. They would never do that. That's, they're in the mindset that librarians and teachers are the prebos. And I just fully believe that there's obviously not all of the, but I fully believe that a part of it is very sinister. And I have nothing to back that up, my disclaimer, but it just seems if you really wanted to protect a child, you go by the real statistics.
Yeah, I ascribe to your conspiracy theory. Amethyst says that her library used barcodes, and parents could go into a child's account and block checkout of books on the list. So in Pennsylvania, it varies by library, but in general, what we do is we do not put restrictions on cards because we upfront tell people we're not tracking what you're checking out, and we're not going to give access to someone else of what you're checking out. What I teach when I teach intellectual freedom is it is not my job to parent your child, and I can't know every kid and what their restrictions are, and we can't afford what would need to be added to the catalog to be able to block content. So I expect that you had a conversation with your kid about what was acceptable, and if they came home with something that was unacceptable, that's between you and your kid. Like, they knew what the terms were, and they violated them. I didn't violate them. I wasn't part of that conversation. I can't be part of that conversation.
And
Like,
you would think
there's
that would
this
be enough.
right. There's a librarian here that was being attacked for intellectual freedom stuff having to do with pride displays, and he said, "I've come to realize that everyone wants the responsibility to parent, but no one wants the job. Like, they want to be able to make decisions for their kid, but they don't want to actually do the work." And yeah, I mean,
Bingo.
right? And it's like,
Bingo.
okay, please parent your child. You tell your child what is appropriate for them to check out. Don't tell me. Tell them.
Then they act all like when you try to tell them, hey, your kid's being an asshole, you know, they're like, my little Johnny is not an asshole. He would never do those. And it's like, yeah, no, your kid's an asshole. Like, when I've my daughter is really, really, really good. I've gotten called once that she was a dick to a teacher. And it was kind of I think they kind of overreacted. She got suspended for 2 days in I think like it was fourth or fifth grade for telling her teacher to fuck off. And so they called me to pick her up, and okay, I can imagine sending her home for the day. 2 days, come on, really, that's a bit much. And she didn't say like, "Hey, Miss So and So, fuck off." She said it under her breath, and the teacher heard. So it wasn't like she was. I mean, she still said it, but I thought it was a little. But I didn't say there. I didn't sit there and say, "My Emily would never do anything so heinous." Yeah, I was like, "Okay, I'll talk to her. I'm sorry." We went home. Like, what is wrong? And like, ever since this started, I don't understand why parents don't just want to like. All right, if you're that concerned about what they could be seeing or reading, don't go to the library with them, or don't let them go to the library. You are the parent. No one's telling you one way, making you do one, or forcing you to believe one thing or the other. If you don't want to, like, it's supposed to be a free country. You're free to not, like,
And at the end of the day, you have the right to parent your child, but you don't have the right to parent someone else's child.
Yeah, and that's what they want, though. And that's why it's not about the kids either, because they want to control your child. They want control over information. They don't care about the safety of the child. It's all about control over information. And it boggles my mind that it seems like I don't see how the mass of Americans don't see this. And it's the first step in full fascist takeover. You discredit the intellectuals, the teachers, the librarians, you get rid of universities, the Department of Education, and you get rid of the people that can question or teach people to question things. I don't see how people don't see this. I just don't. Like, I'm
Well, and
sorry.
today it's
Maybe
things that have sexual content or talk about LGBTQ or something like that. Tomorrow it's teaching history that they find offensive or that they think makes kid. They've done this with Black history. They've said, "Oh, well, that makes kids uncomfortable." Well, I'm sorry that your ancestors were involved in that, or maybe they weren't, but it
kids
did
aren't
happen.
uncomfortable.
Like it
I
happened.
promise
I
you,
can't change that.
I promise you, kids are not uncomfortable. They might be like, I can understand, they're probably showing sympathy or empathy or, talking about tough topics like slavery or the Holocaust or, imperialism. You're not supposed to feel good about it because it was wrong. And half the reason why you teach history is so you can be better and do better. But
That's the thing, though.
that
They
I
want to
don't
get away with that
understand.
shit now. Yeah, they want to,
I don't
but look at
understand
Trump
why
now. He wants
people
to get away with that kind of crap now. So we can't talk about how when someone else did it previously was wrong because then that means him doing it now is wrong. That's why they freak out every time we compare him to Hitler.
and sorry. Okay, you want to talk about compare him to Napoleon? I can do that too.
I mean,
Like, would you?
if you wanted to be remembered better, you would have behaved better. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And if you don't want me to
sorry.
call
And
you
you
a
wouldn't,
Nazi, don't act like a Nazi.
and don't have friends that give the Nazi salute. It's a Roman salute. It's a Nazi salute. I'm sorry. I don't care who. If the Nazis probably stole it from the Romans, which is its own set of irony, because Roman and Greek soldiers, we all know about them. I digress. But like, it's still, it's still associated with a salute. And you know that it's associated with the salute. But you're doing it anyway. So don't try to justify it like people are stupid. Like, I'm sorry, I have a friend who was Hindu, and the Nazis also um, took the swastika. It's actually a symbol in Hinduism. How did I learn this? Because I walked into my friend's house who was a Hindu the first time in high school, and there's a swastika on, and I'm just looking at it like I'm looking at. I knew it likely wasn't what I was looking at, but and she could see the confusion. She's like, the Nazis stole it from us, and then I learned it's actually the Nazis inverted it. It's a little different. It still looks like swastika, but um, you know, so it's hard for
So
them to
about
even
the
practice their religion with that imagery because
Mhm.
it's. I mean, who wants to? Even though it's upside down or reversed, it's like who's gonna risk putting that in their home? You know what I mean? Like, so
Well, and like I heard that the Roman salute they're claiming the Germans took it from a film about the Romans. There's no proof that the Romans actually ever did that salute. But at the end of the day, you know, Mussolini stole it from a movie. Okay, um, sorry, Derek's screaming historical facts to me from the other room. Um, at the end of the day, you you know what it means, and the people that you wanted to know that you were on their side knew what it was. So if the Nazis think that you threw a Nazi salute, you threw a Nazi salute. Period.
yeah, and you know that's and that one news anchor challenged Scott Jennings, like he was trying to defend it like that was a Roman salute, and she's like, oh, it was just a Roman salute, do it right now if it was no big deal. And did he do it right then and there? Nope, because it's a Nazi
Yeah.
salute.
Yeah, he knew exactly
And
what it was.
he's trying to justify it. Keep get out of here. That guy is such a he makes me want to scream into a pillow.
Yep. Amethyst, that is such a great point. I think in America and in most of the colonial nations, we have not reconciled our own bad history of what we have done to subjugate other people. When I say we, obviously I don't mean you and I, but what our ancestors did. I realize it was a different time. I realize standards were different. But looking back now, we know it was wrong. Acknowledging that what happened then was wrong does not mean that we now are sinful or bad. It means that we learned better and that we can do better. And so
Yeah, you're not
pretending like it didn't
responsible.
happen, yeah, pretending like it didn't happen is almost the same as saying it's fine. We're just going to pretend like it's not there. It's still there. That's like denying that someone's getting beaten right in front of you. It's still happening, whether you acknowledge it or not. So acknowledge it so something can be done about it.
And like, weren't the same people complaining about like the same people that are complaining about children being uncomfortable about history are the same people who hate participation trophies or like think that kids are too soft. If you want your kid to be tougher, they gotta learn the tough stuff of history. And a lot of stuff that's being learned in like a history class, these kids aren't like 4 or 5, even 6. A lot of these are, the real tough stuff that's going on. They're in, middle school, high school. Um, and even so, like I don't believe I'm gonna need to see some paperwork to believe that kids learning history were like devastated or really upset. Like I'm sure I bet they expressed empathy or sympathy or, not necessarily guilt. I don't know what you'd call that feeling. It's being somber, I guess, because when you're talking about slavery or imperialism or the Holocaust, it's not it's it's not a happy topic. It's solemn. Of course, like, it's not meant to be feel good. And if a kid's upset about what happened, well, let them feel that because it's an upsetting topic. No one's saying I don't think anybody, I refuse, those people who say, oh, the teacher said that you needed to feel bad. I don't believe that happened. I'm going to need to see a recording for me to believe that happened. I think a kid just was feeling something. And, you know, it shows he's a human being and it's a sad topic.
Well, you know my soapbox. We have a problem in this country of generations of people who never learned how to regulate their emotions, and so they have not taught their children how to regulate their emotions, and they act like there's angry and there's happy and there's nothing in between, and be like, no, there's a whole range of emotions, and some of that is confusion, some of it's fear, some of it's empathy or sorrow, and that's okay. That's the whole range. And learning history, we don't learn history to glorify the bad things that happened. We also teach about the heroes, the people who came and did something about it, the people who
Yeah.
survived despite. And that's where the hope is. And so, lean into that, but don't pretend like shit didn't happen. Reframing it to make it softer, like saying that, well, during slavery, they learned essential skills. Like, oh, come on, dude. Call it what it is, you know?
Well, they could have taken a webinar too. I'm just kidding. Like,
I know
you
it's
didn't need to
ridiculous,
enslave
though.
them to teach them skills.
Yeah, they were very skilled in their country before you drug them across an ocean and kept them in chains. Like, come on, don't pretend like it just it's ridiculous and it's infuriating. But I don't understand why people have a problem with children feeling and expressing emotions. We need them to be able to work through difficult emotions. They're going to need that as an adult. And we have a lot of people now that can't deal with hard emotions, which is why we have a lot of the political violence and all this other crap going on because people never learned how to deal with their emotions.
It's social emotional learning. And let me tell you something. Probably about right after Elon bought X, and those Twitter spaces started cranking up. Someone I forgot who had the Moms for Liberty founder, um, and her voice is like nails on a chalkboard. I digress. But I went in. I just wanted to hear what she had to say, and it's not like I could be a speaker or anything. But I wanted to hear. She hates social emotional learning. And she could not articulate why that's a bad thing for kids. But she thinks it's like woke bullshit and nonsense, but she couldn't articulate why. And she kept saying about the types of homework that gets sent home. Now her kids are in private school. Hold on to that thought. One of the Krasenstein brothers was also in on the call. So we asked her, I'm not I don't see that with my child. I've never seen what you're talking about. Can you give me an example? Or like, can you like attach, like, show us what you're talking about? And of course she can't. Half the shit they say is made up. About controlling information, it's not about kids or what's being taught. It's all, they just want to control information. Idaho, one of the most vile places to live on earth at this point, with the Build Back Better infrastructure money, they were given money to bring broadband to Idaho, and they denied the broadband money. Why would you do that? Why would you deprive your people being able to access broadband? You don't want them to have information. You don't want them to have access. It's really that simple. I'll die on that hill too. It's not about anything but controlling.
I'm on that hill with you too, kid. We need to talk about what Cynthia said. She said that Musk said that the biggest problem with Western civilization is empathy.
That's dark. That's dark.
That,
You know what I?
that hurts me to the core.
Because it's true. You're absolutely right, Cynthia. It's dark. Yeah.
That is so sick. Like, I think the problem with Western civilization is we don't have enough empathy sometimes. Like, after Reagan and the me stuff, it was, I'm going to get mine, and as long as I've got mine, I don't care. And I'm sorry, we need a little more of, hey, I see you're struggling, and I've got a little extra, and I'm willing to help. Or, hey, that's a terrible thing that happened to you, and it shouldn't happen to anyone. Like, those are not bad things. That kills
They're
me.
not, but he doesn't like the way that, and we made so many strides in mental health, social emotional learning, and like,
Mm-hmm.
so like maybe future generations wouldn't need, like, end up alcoholics or drug addicts, dealing with some baggage that, because a lot of times alcoholism and drug use is masking and you're treating yourself, um, self-medicating. That's what I meant. Self-medicating. Um, and that's how a lot of drug, you try one thing that leads to another, and, hey, I don't feel nearly as bad anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
it just, spirals down. So
Well, and abusers are usually people who were abused or who saw it
absolutely.
mirrored to them. So, like, these things don't, except for the rare case of a psychopath being born, most of these behaviors are learned. So, what are we going to do to overcome the learned behavior? That's the real question. And instead, we treat the symptoms. And it's like addiction, yes, there's a genetic component, but a lot of it is some kind of trauma that led them to go down that path, and they are predisposed to be an addict.
Trauma is
Those are,
inherited too. You can
yeah,
inherit trauma.
I absolutely believe that. And it's like, why aren't we? It's, I'm sorry, the empathy thing really, really bothers me. Um, and Cynthia made the point that Yarvin wants to turn seniors and the disabled into biofuel. Like, it's
That's
because we're
dark. That's
like,
even dark.
this happened
Damn.
during, I know, right? This happened during the age of empires and the colonialism and all that. If we pretend like they are lesser, that they're not as human as we are, then we can feel justified in stripping away from them natural human rights that we enjoy. And that's the thing. There are no lesser people. There's not. There's not a person on this planet, no matter what they've done, who do not deserve food and water and shelter. Do they deserve punishment for what they've done? Probably. But they do deserve the basics. And we can't treat one group of people by the accident of their birth. I didn't choose to be born a white woman in the US. I am fortunate that I was born a white woman in the US. And I get certain privileges from that because there's certain obstacles not in my way. But that doesn't mean that I don't have empathy for others who don't have that same privilege. And it doesn't mean that I think anyone else is entitled to less or that they should suffer the way, I grew up poor as shit. I don't want that to happen to anybody. Nobody deserves that. Allison, I wanted to talk to you about this. We are working on in our libraries a resource guide for our county of all the different nonprofits and government institutions and all that kind of stuff that provide services in our area. Because when I worked in housing, I was new to the area. I didn't know what they were. And people would ask for help, and I'd be like, shit, I don't know. I'll have to find it out. So here we are 7 years later. I'm still trying to get this list compiled. And I was talking to somebody who just got involved in working like peer to peer. And they were saying that so many of their fellow employees and managers and stuff have this attitude, and this is really common in these small rural areas, of, well, that family's just trash. And I'm like, holy shit. I I don't care that you don't like that family, and I don't care that generations of that family have grown up with less. You are not the gatekeeper of these services. That is not your job. You are a guide to the services, but you're not
So wait,
determining
they
who
want to
is
deny
worthy.
them
Like they're
the
just
services?
so they won't even bother to help them. They'll be like, oh, well, that family's just like that. Like, we have this problem with children and youth in particular. When there's an abuse allegation against a family in our area who has known for generations of abuse, they're like, well, yeah, that's how they live. No, no, I'm sorry. You're not deciding who is worthy of care and help. You're deserving who is eligible for care
Yeah,
and help.
that's a really good point. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
you're not the gatekeeper, you're the guide.
yeah,
And like, you
no,
got to get
and
that out of your head.
absolutely.
Because
And
that
it's like,
kid in that
well,
house could have broken the generational cycle of poverty and trauma and everything else, but you have prevented them from doing that because you didn't do your job. You didn't provide the services they are entitled to. And that's some bullshit. Like, to me,
yeah,
you are, what is the word? You were part of the abuse when you did nothing to stop it and you had the tools to do it. You're an enabler
yeah. And that's
in
why
that
the
regard.
tools are there,
Yeah.
because, you know, you're not there to judge people. You're there to, like, hand out the aid, whether it's information or something physical. Like, that's pretty audacious, damn.
I mean, literally, somebody, I won't give details, but her supervisor said, you're going to have to take this case because I know the family and she's just like her mother. Excuse me? I don't care who her mother is, and I don't care that you don't like her personally. That is not your job. Your job is, does she meet the requirements to benefit from the program that you can give her access to? If the answer is yes, effing do it. Trust me, I gave
Yeah,
housing to
that's
people.
so petty.
Right. I gave housing to people that I'm like, man, I would not live in the same block as you. But you are entitled to this service. You've provided the proper paperwork that I've requested. You are eligible. Congratulations. Here's your key. Because that was my job. Like, I'm not there to determine your worth, I'm there to determine your eligibility. And my personal opinion of you has nothing to do with your eligibility. It's sickening. And they wonder why there's this generational trauma and generational poverty and all that. It's because at some point people become numb and just stop helping. They're like, well, they're just like that. Are they? Or do they not have the resources they need? Do they have to
So why do
be?
we have
Or
to?
has no one helped them?
Yeah, like, why do we have to let that be? Why does that have to be so?
Yeah, and why
Like,
aren't we trying? Why aren't you trying to help them break the cycle?
yeah, like, why are you trying to keep them down? And I bet that person calls herself a Christian too.
Oh, hell yeah.
Somebody from church
Amethyst says her
texted
son
me.
got in trouble trying to help a friend, and the cops had the attitude that the other kid was a lost cause at 15. Come on. I thought Christians were all about second chances and it's never too late to get redemption and all this shit. Like, come on.
I ignored a text message from someone who texted me from the church. I thought it was best to um, ignore the text. It wasn't anything rude or mean, it was actually, just a thinking of you. But I just, I know the way she thinks, and I just can't. I just can't, because I don't want her. Like, here's what I didn't want her to ask me questions, and then I'd answer, and then, like, there comes a point where I can be cordial and polite But then if you start asking me questions, like my face or the tone of my voice is gonna change. And I wish I wish I had a poker face. I don't. I have no poker face. So it's just gonna start. And I just wasn't looking to get all, involved, like into something that, because I can't hide. I really try to hide my face is gonna get me killed. I'm just gonna have the wrong But anyway,
I do miss masks because they hid my face from when I was really going.
That was exactly. They hid my face because I have no poker face, and I didn't have to hear smile or, my I didn't. Nobody saw my facial expression because I have no. Oh God, I wish I could be, and I really try to control it, but if I'm caught off guard, especially my heart's on my sleeve, and I think it makes me authentic. In the positive spin, it's authenticity.
Well, and I was born with the curse of resting bitch face, and since I was a child, my mother has said, "Don't look at me in that tone of voice." And I'm like, but it's my face. I don't know what to do about it. I can't help it. And I'll think that I have a pleasant expression on my face, and apparently not. I'll be like, well,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
I thought it was pleasant.
Yeah, a lot of times I think I'm just chilling, and if somebody says you look angry, I'm like, oh, I'm just chilling. It's all good. Don't need anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I grew up in a very stoic family. Straight faced. I guess maybe that's why, because I had such a big mouth, so if I'm containing my words, my face starts reacting. So it's either I say it or it shows up on my face. Yeah.
I can bite my tongue, but there's no control in the facial expressions.
And or my eyes roll, or
I also
got
get the eyebrow creep where the eyebrow just keeps going higher and higher and higher, and you're like, oh.
Yeah. That's another one. When I'm trying to, or I'm trying not to when I'm trying not to make a face, I purse my lips
Mm-hmm.
And then people know I'm trying to that draws more attention. Oh, the life, it's tough living in my head. God, I wish you all could just take a visit into my head sometime. You would just be like, girl, that I'm exhausted listening to your thoughts. A million, a million miles a minute.
Yeah, if you think the things I say are annoying, you ought to be in my head. You ought to be glad for all the things I didn't say.
Exactly, and don't tell. And it is I don't know why it annoys a lot of women when somebody's like, smile, you're not mean or bad or something. Dude, I don't want to smile. You fucking smile. What? One controllable eyebrow. That's funny. The one uncontrollable eyebrow. Oh God, yeah. No, I can't do I can't do the thing with my eyebrows. It's
I
usually
can't
the
do it
pursed lips.
consciously, but when I get irritated, my left eyebrow starts slowly rising and arching. And
Both
and
mine do.
also, you know that face you make when someone says something so supremely stupid that all you can do is squint? Like occasionally that hits me and I'm like, did that
Don't.
I'm frozen now by your dumbness and I don't know what to do. Eyebrow unchained. Cute. The struggle is real.
Yeah, the struggle is real. Struggle is. There was this TikTok that blew up on my daughter's For You page, and she showed it to me because it was so stupid. Y'all it went viral, so y'all might have seen it. There was this she's probably a 20 something, and she was advocating how to not move muscles in your, in your face to create, so it won't create lines. Like how to smile without moving your cheekbones up, so it doesn't create that, as you age, you get that laugh line. Um, and like, when, as you age, you get those crow's feet. Um, like she's teaching you how to not move, or how to not get the forehead wrinkles by, like, like a lot of people, I that's probably how I got mine. I'm always like, eyebrow up. It's wild. It is wild. And I'm just like, girlfriend, there ain't nothing. Like, a lot of skin is genetics. A lot of it's genetics. A lot of it is just moisturize. Sunscreen is number one. Sunscreen will save your skin and really help you not age as much. That's all I gotta say about that. Moving your muscles up and down, like, it is.
Now I've had the furrow between my eyebrows since I was probably 9 from giving people the what the fuck face, you know?
That's great. No, yeah, I've probably
it's a
had
valley now. It's never coming out.
I've had like forehead lines probably since my I mean, they've gotten more significant, but like, I mean, I'm glad I never wasted. It probably took her hours to learn to not to talk or smile without moving it like a muscle, so you, like, don't get, you're gonna get that crease. Like, it's just gonna happen. Like, I mean, your face shape changes as you age, and you're gonna age. That's just what happens. And I don't like it either, because you know what? I was a kid with big ass glasses and a mouthful of metal braces, and but you know what? The one thing I had going for me was flawless skin. And so I get it. I get it. Like, it pains me when I see like a wrinkle getting a little deeper. But I'm gonna be 44 this year. I don't like it. So
Oh, I got a
that's,
year
it
on you.
happens. What?
I got 2 years on you.
I'm sure you don't like it either. But
No, well, and your
I'm
skin
glad
gets
I didn't.
thinner over time and everything else. There's nothing you can do about it. It's hormones and it's environmental pollution and it's all the chemicals in the world
A
and
lot of
just
factors.
life.
You know what? I'll give you a one. My skin is genetically. My family has beautiful skin. And I knew I would not get stretch marks when I had a baby. I did not have one stretch mark. Only 10% of women will not get stretch marks when they're pregnant, and it's usually because of genetics. So
I did
I
not
got
win that
lucky.
genetic lottery because I got stretch marks just from puberty. Like I
Yeah, a
have
lot of
your
people.
stripes.
Yeah. Um, my husband, he's skinny, skinny, and he had this like weight gain and weight loss. This was like years ago. Um, he he's always like, he has this high metabolism. It's really, he like, I gain weight watching him eat, because he just has to eat so much to like maintain. But he got stretch marks from that substantial weight gain, and then lost the weight.
Hmm.
So I mean, even skinny people can get stretch marks, but I never got them when I went through weight loss, weight gain, or with pregnancy. There's a faint one by my belly button from when I was 9 months, but you can't see it because it's by my belly button. But, and I don't even really know if you call that like a stretch mark. But yeah,
You're making me
chipmunk.
jealous,
Oh
Allison.
yeah,
You're
you
making me
wear them,
jealous.
rock them out. But my skin is sensitive to me. Like, it's like when I got chicken pox, I was 14. And when I saw my face in the mirror, I freaked out because I was like, I'm a monster. Like, because I'd never had pimples all over my face before. And so, yeah, so my skin's sensitive. Like, it's, everyone has their thing. And so mine's my skin. Like, and I only get
Sharing that.
cocky about no stretch marks around people who are like, you need to not move your cheeks so you don't get laugh line wrinkles. Oh, yeah?
All right.
I didn't get stretch marks.
I mean, that's the thing. The wrinkles and stretch marks are proof that you lived, man.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, and I get, like I said, my skin is like kind of like my Achilles heel. Like, this is the one thing. Like, some people have, like, they can eat everything. Some people have, perfectly white teeth. You know, I had so much like wrong. Like, now, I mean, obviously these are big glasses, but when I was a kid, they didn't have feather weighting yet. So them shits were thick and heavy. So I had those. Plus, I had curly hair that my mom didn't know what to do with. So, like, I had this like constantly frizzy mess of hair. Like, there's this one picture, I gotta see if I can find it. I'll show you exactly the most painful part of and you'll see, like, how just, like, swirly I am. But you'll notice I have flawless skin. Damn, your skin was good.
You're like
Some
those
kids
80s,
at that age.
when they do the makeover movies. You know,
Hmm.
you were like the before, but you were like, but I got the skin. Pop in the contacts and know how to do the hair, and boom.
Hmm. So, yeah, I get kind of, you I get a little emotional when I see new wrinkles, but I'm also not, I was never gonna, in my 20s, there was no way in hell. If you told me that, like, if I learned to not move my muscles in my face, I could delay, like, face laugh lines, I would have been like, "Oh, fuck yourself. I ain't nobody got time for that." Like, how do you do
Right?
that?
There's a million things you could be
uh,
using your energy on. That's not one of them.
yeah, and I've had like forehead lines. I'm always like,
Hmm. Well, and I've got like the five head. I've got this giant freaking forehead. Thanks, mom. And I mean, just all the wrinkles from scrunching up my face and sun exposure and not taking care of myself.
yeah.
I'm like, it is what it is. I'm just gonna be a
I
wrinkled
definitely have
little
a
old
little
lady,
sun
and I'm
damage
fine
on my
with it.
nose
Yeah.
from one too many sunburns. Sunscreen. I bet you that's gonna be the next thing. Like, don't wear sunscreen. It's not natural. Okay, go get skin cancer.
Did you say that RFK Jr. was saying that vitamin A would prevent the measles? Okay, A,
Of
absolutely not
course he
true.
did.
And oh my
No, I didn't
God.
hear that, but um, no, I didn't hear that. But of course, vitamin A does not. I'm confident it does not help preventing measles. I'm confident.
I mean, I will give him credit that it wasn't like ivermectin or something. And I'm pretty sure vitamin A is one of those that if you have enough in your body, you just pee out the excess. But still, can we not?
Yeah, I mean,
By the way, the
I
second
think.
person died from measles, and this one was a teenager in New Mexico.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, it's starting to spill out into New Mexico, and
Yeah,
it's
it's
totally
into 9
preventable.
states now.
It's
Yeah.
totally preventable. It was declared eradicated. It was
Mm-hmm.
technically eradicated at one point, and we had
Yep. It's
um,
sad, and
and
then
that's just wild
it's
to me.
one of the most infectious of all of the diseases, and I think
Ooh,
it's 20 to 30% end up in the hospital, and I mean that's dangerous.
I think it's as contagious as smallpox was. It's just as
Mm.
it might even be more contagious. It's not as deadly. Like
Mm-hmm.
the mortality rate is a lot lower, obviously. But I
Yeah.
think it's more contagious. Like, for every one, the R number, like for every one person that's sick, they infect how many others? I
Yep.
want to say it's like 10, 1 person to 10. It's a really high
Oh,
number.
Cynthia, no. Oh, I was hoping vitamin A was water soluble, so at least he wasn't poisoning people. But no, I should
Oh,
have
he's
known
gonna
RFK
poison
Jr.
people.
Of course, Bobby Brainworm is going to.
Yeah, I don't. And you know what? Now that I think about it, you don't really see vitamin A, like, in the supplement aisle. You don't really see vitamin A on its own. That's probably
Yeah.
why.
It's usually the B vitamins.
but B, D, C, um, which I'm pretty positive vitamin C is water soluble and you'll pee out the rest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
okay.
Amethyst just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in a.
Potassium, I
Mhm,
think you can overdose on. Or if some people get too much, it can trigger a heart attack.
mhm. Yeah, no, we're in dangerous times because all of the major health agencies are being run by people with too little experience or with radical ideas or both. And holy shit, we are in trouble because
You're in trouble.
preventable things, pre- research isn't going to get done. And they've already stopped because of the staff cuts and the funding cuts. They've already cut planned research, and we're going to have people getting bad health advice. And it's just the only God, I hate this. Physically hurts me to say. The only good thing about RFK Jr. is he wants more transparency on food labels. I will give him that. But the guy who's
Fair
in
enough.
charge of the but the guy who's in charge of the FDA is a lawyer for the corporations who worked on how to follow the FDA regulations. So how much do you want to bet he's going to roll back those regulations so that there's less labeling or less truth in labeling?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's really sad. And I was trying to ban mRNA vaccines.
Yep.
So, of all the things you can be um, productive on.
Oh my God, Amethyst, I giggled so much about the transgendered mice. They can't read. They saw trans and they freaked out. It's transgenetic. They or transgenic, where they've entered a genome into them to help check a disease or for research, and he took it as they're creating transgender mice, and I'm like, oh my God, learn to read.
And he doesn't even stop. Like, the crazy thing about that is he doesn't even stop and think. Like,
He's not capable.
me, like, you know, most reasonable people, if they thought they read transgendered mice, they would be like, that doesn't sound right. Let me reread it. Or let me ask somebody about it. Or,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't just go on like national level like stuff and be like, start talking about transgender. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I
Well,
would
and
be
how did
humiliated if
well,
I
and wouldn't it
started
take
if I
2 seconds to say why in the world would we be making transgender rice, transgender mice? Hmm, I should probably ask someone who knows about it before I go spout my big fucking mouth. But no,
he thought he had
insane.
something good.
Yeah, well, and they're running with it, and it doesn't matter how many times you correct them. It doesn't matter. They're on to an idea now, and they won't let it go, and they won't listen. And we've undermined science so bad, so bad. And what they're doing to the EPA, they're planning on selling a whole bunch of nationally held federal land so it can be
Worse.
developed. Oh, and they're gutting EPA restrictions. They're even going after how much permissible sewage waste can be in your water. How do
That's
you with a
gross.
straight face say, right, like how with a straight face do you defend that and say, no, it's fine that there's more sewage in the water? No, it's not. It's not fine that there's any sewage in the water. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, who are they
It's
selling our
wild.
national lands to?
It is wild. It's like, and you know who started the EPA? Like, that's like the wildest thing. Like, or who started, Trump loves Teddy Roosevelt, and, he started the national parks essentially. And then isn't it Richard Nixon who started the EPA? Like, the biggest douchebag, like, until Trump, like, well, let me rephrase. In modern times, like, he's one of the most, like, corrupt douchebag presidents of modern times. And he's the one who starts the EPA. So, yeah,
Yeah,
and you know what?
when
And I said this on Discord, and I got to get going soon because I got to go pick up groceries. But like, it's like Trump wakes up daily and says, "How big of a dick can I be?" And then he's like, "I know. You know what? Let's go cut down Redwood National Park and cut the sequoia trees, or let's go
yeah,
find them Joshua trees." I'd like to
Yeah.
burn some of those. Let's go cut them
Yeah,
down.
let's
You
decimate
know?
Yosemite and get oil out of it. Like, come on, folks.
Yeah. And then they're gonna
Yeah,
want
Utah's
like,
banning
and
fluoride, and they just found there was a city that decided to take fluoride out of their water, and they reversed the decision within, I think, 2 years because of the health damage it was causing. So, but and then Utah goes, "Hey, let's just the whole state. We don't need fluoride." I'm like, come on.
why do
We're
why
not
do we,
listening to
like,
science.
and like they see other people suffer from bad decisions,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, you know what? That's where we need to be.
Mm-hmm. Look at
Like
this terrible
we
thing
saw a
they did. We
city,
should do it.
yeah, this terrible idea that you know, and I think India tried to do fluoride paste, and it still wasn't as effective as fluoride in the water. Um,
Mm-hmm. We have a
it's
problem here.
it's
A lot of people use well water, and even our municipal water. I think they process the water from the Susquehanna River, which is a very polluted river. Um, our local water is so bad. It comes out cloudy, tastes awful. Derek and I don't drink it. I don't even boil pasta or eggs in it. Like, I use bottled water for everything. I'm sad that I have to wash my dishes and my body in it, but at least I have filters on my shower. It's so gross. And they're trying
yeah, I
to
bet.
lower the standard even further. Come on.
Yeah, it's wild, and like people still take it. Like these people have been ruling states for decades, and they still think, yep, them Republicans, at least they don't like them abortion things that I know it's not true, but it sounds good, so I'm good. Like
Yeah. Well, in
like
this area, there's a lot of fracking, natural gas fracking, and a whole bunch of the water's been polluted, and there's been EPA cases and so forth. Of course, that won't happen anymore. But we personally know three people that were in their 30s that died of a very quickly progressing, fairly rare cancer just in the last few months. And I am convinced that it's related to the water. Because these are people who were born and raised here. They've been drinking this water for 30 plus years. And suddenly they're young, they're healthy, they're active, and they have this crazy ass cancer and they're dead within months. Makes no
yeah, that's
sense.
wild.
I have no proof, but I'm just saying.
And Elon wants to get to Mars because he knows he's like, it's like they're trying to fuck the planet so bad before they're all able to escape to Mars and leave us all here to
Listen, if they
suffocate.
want to go to Mars, go to Mars. Go, buddy, go.
Go
No
to
one's going to
Mars.
miss you. Bye. Leave us something though. You know what? Speaking of the broadband, I heard that part of why, so they're fighting E-rate in the Supreme Court right now for the hotspots and all that stuff. A part of why they're blocking broadband internet um, advancement that they've been working on for a while, supposedly, no proof yet, is because Musk wants the Starlink contract to offer rural broadband.
Of course he does.
It's always a grift with these fuckers. They want to privatize everything. They want to privatize Amtrak now. And what was the other thing they wanted to privatize, Derek? Oh, and the Postal Service, of course. And
It's
then
not
you've got the.
supposed to profit. Post
Right?
office
It's
is
like,
not
what part of this
supposed to
do you
profit.
get? Oh, late stage capitalism, man. No, it's just.
Yeah, and it's gonna take decades to recover.
Well, and
And
that's my
if
concern about the Department of Education. Like, he knows that he technically needs congressional approval to disband it. But through executive order and through Linda McMahon, he can, and Doge, he can definitely gut it and make it so ineffective that it doesn't have the power to do anything. And why, I don't understand as a congressperson why you'd be like, well, I mean, technically that's our job and he shouldn't be able to do that, but like, no. Even if you're a Republican, you're you are kissing ass your way out of a job. You're licking his boots until you don't even have a job anymore. He's taking your powers away. It makes no sense.
Probably there's like a whole billionaire story, but I have to get going. I gotta go get my groceries before the store closes, so I could talk
I
about
hear you.
this all night.
I hear you. Amethyst, I am totally in with you that Mars was where humans were first and we fucked it up and moved to Earth. I absolutely believe that story.
Sounds legit.
I will hop on that conspiracy train.
All right, friends. Well, it was good chatting with a venting some of our frustrations. Like, share. I
Sorry
didn't
the world's
do
a
the
shit show.
yeah. Sorry, and comment, subscribe. Share. Help us with the algorithm. Check
Go
out our
find
link
Library of
tree.
Democracy on Substack.
Yeah, I put some new articles up. In particular related to SB 74, and on the Kaufman Chronicle, I did a piece related to it as well. So go check it out.
And thanks
All right, friends.
Thanks for letting us use StreamYard, Tony.
Yeah, thank you for letting us use StreamYard, and we will talk to y'all next week, friends. Bye.
Peace.